I mean, I could wield it probably just as good as you anyway.
I've trusted myself to Adrex in the past, and he hasn't let me down.
I mean, what's the downside of letting Birdie or Wendy hit things with it?
He says the downside is if Wendy falls in battle to Mammon's forces, and it falls into his hands. It's safer locked away in my stores. I have many artifacts there. We spoke of this at some length when you were here before. And you recall, you were asked him all kinds of questions about, hey, could you give us magic weapons, and can you fix our awesome magic spellstone? And
Right. Mm-hmm. Raazu seems really dubious about where this conversation is going.
Look,
And what if the lack of that staff caused Mammon to take control? There's no way of knowing what's going to happen, so all you can do is set up everything in your power in your favor.
and he tells you that's precisely what he's doing. By taking this particularly powerful artifact out of the hands of mortals, it removes that particular part of the equation.
I thought you weren't going to get involved, though.
He says he's not. He said he wasn't going to wage war.
And Wendy hasn't looked particularly upset at this, and she then just says what it's clear she's been building up to, and says, but you wouldn't want to tilt things one way or the other. So what are you going to give us in return for the staff?
He asks what else you found at Vornacht Keep.
Found a codex of battle strategies.
We got a airship schematic. Can't read it. I don't understand Gnomish. I got a schematic for a crossbow. It's really cool. Really excited about that. Got a book on quintessence. Did I miss anything?
No, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
We freed the lives of some slaves.
Yeah.
He tells you that translators will be provided for you, so you can make sense of these schematics that you found. He says that the resources to put these schematics to use, to decode these maps, to figure out the meaning behind them and how they might be used, the resources will be placed at your disposal to do it as you see fit. He says,
Just kind of have a point that we can't use a staff, but yeah, I think it's a fair trade.
he says, surely
Oh,
this
yeah,
is an advantageous position. You know where the enemy is. You have the means to hit him in a surprising way.
And Wendy nods and says, speaking of, by the way, of surprising things happening. And then Wendy relates what went down when they followed the path, and says, was that message from you, or was it from someone else?
He asks for details about how the message came to you.
Wendy turns towards Red.
I mean, I just transcribed it. I think it would be more valuable to describe how you found it.
I can't well describe how the snow moved itself. And when I need someone to describe something dispassionately...
And Red very clinically describes. You know, he makes notes on the handwriting.
Red, make an insight check.
Yep. That's only a 26.
Only 26. Damn, you needed a 27. No, Brenier does not like this at all. He's not, his face doesn't change perceptively. He still has this kind of detached and kind of aloof sense of the conversation, but you see almost imperceptibly something in his eyes, like hearing this message kind of fired up out of the snow, and we just kind of saw it out of nowhere. He's very, very troubled by it, but he doesn't give any outward notion that that's the case. Instead, he says,
afraid or can I get any other emotion out of that?
You can't imagine what somebody in Brennier's position would be afraid of, as powerful as he is. No, it's just he's very troubled by it, like he's blindsided by it. Every other part of the story that you've come to so far, he's kind of taken in stride, but this is kind of...
So it's more surprise than afraid.
Definitely more surprise than fear.
Okay.
He tells you, though, outwardly, none of the rest of you pick up on his the change in his expression. He tells you, to his ears, it sounds like some trick of the Ice King. Perhaps one of his minions had seen you travel towards Voronacht, and coming away with, and he motions to the harp, the treasures of Voronacht loaded on your sledge. Perhaps he's thought to trick you into his grasp somehow.
Raazu nods to the staff. We'd also considered that the message was meant that the golden creature which that message spoke was in fact Mammon. Raazu was looking very dubious at all of this.
If that's the case, he says, then it's whatever wiles you employed to evade Mammon's grasp. More to your credits, that the staff should slip into his hands would be a tragedy. Better that it has come to me. And then he very abruptly, if there will be nothing else, we should retire to quarters. We have a lot to do. Much work begins on the morrow. Does anybody else have anything for Brennier?
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Want your bow back?
You ask him if he wants the bow back?
No. Don't.
Yeah.
Adrex.
He tells you that Bo had sat idle long enough. And it's good that you've done well by it. He's sure that the stories of Adrex wielding this bow will come to eclipse that of Nathanaeax.
And Adrex gives a giggle when Brennier says that.
And what do you all do upon returning back to your quarters? When you get there, Thought is there after spending an afternoon doing chores with some of the other children.
I hope there wasn't any runes we wanted to get for that staff.
Yeah, I bet Treble's watching this at home and he's just like...
I would be disappointed in Treble if he wasn't wanting to come up with those runes himself. And honestly, that's how I consider Birdie as well, so...
I don't have anything.
Okay.
Yeah, Adrex is exhausted, so he's just going to enjoy himself for a little while.
And there's plenty here to enjoy. There's good food. There's hot springs to lay around in. There's cool breeze, green grass, miles of excellent country.
Dealing with undead
Wait, hold
frost
on. I have something very
giants and-
important.
Uh huh.
How's my cat?
How's your cat? Just as you left her.
So miserable
Literally
because,
exact.
They've been taking perfect care of your cat.
but so miserable because the cat only likes me. Got it.
Perfect.
Ugh.
It's actually precisely the same, such that you suspect the cat's been in stasis.
And Gnomish translators are provided for you. Some of the children come around and can help you to translate this schematic. Who is doing this work? I know it would be Birdie, but he's not here, so.
Yeah. Yes, it's Stand and Birdie, which would be Adrex.
Wait, can they fix the cat's wings?
No. No, unfortunately, those injuries are permanent.
Some all magical and knowing dragon god.
I think you're. I think Red is
cat.
Red is mistaking the difference between can and will.
So, Adrex, you're working on translating the Gnomish schematic over?
Yeah.
Okay. How long do you guys spend in downtime in Wizard's Folly? Doing this preparation work, figuring out what resources you're going to need, plotting the course to Mammon's location.
I mean, what are we going to be able to do with that schematic as
I don't
is? Like, we don't even have the resources to build this kind of a thing, do we?
Not in a short-term timeline, no. In fact, as Adrex works on the translation, it becomes apparent that, like, Raazu could take her cart full of gold that she got from Daedra to purchase a craft, and then find a place to do this work, hire on the crew to do the actual building. Probably you'd have to find gnomes to do it. You're looking at probably a good year or so of construction.
I wonder if Captain
Yeah.
Eyes knows any gnomes.
I wonder if he knows any ships.
The ship I'm not worried about. We have all the deeds from the Southling lands to exchange for a
Yeah.
ship. Could they build prosthetic wings?
The ship doesn't fly using wings. It flies using an enormous
cat.
balloon. Oh, for the cat. The cat
Can we
doesn't
find
fly
a-
using wings. It flies using a helium balloon.
Could we find a small balloon for the cat?
Raazu,
Okay.
going over the map, you managed to kind of triangulate the position of what it doesn't have a name in the text, but you've kind of come to just know it as the Golden Spire. There's
Yeah.
one of these spires for each of the precious metals, each of the creatures, the metal men, the greatest of which was the Lord of Blades, who had a spire of iron. There was also one of silver, of gold, of platinum, and obsidian. And the obsidian spire was the first to fall to an army of dwarven wizards. And some of this story you already know. They figured out a way to set up a ritual where they were able to infiltrate the spire and casting the most ferocious magic you've ever heard tell of in a story like this.
I think I recall something like sacrificing elven wizards to basically plugging them into this thing, and
And it
seems kind of brutal,
sounds
if I remember.
very much like blood magic. And the end effect of this was they were able to remove the physical obsidian spire from its position here in the north to a remote mountain in the south, where it could safely be contained, studied, and eventually utilized. Raazu, I'm going to need you to make an Arcana check.
Ha. Haven't been taking the correspondence courses. I've just been kind of muddling through.
Chapter 1. Blood magic.
Arcana check. 16.
16. First thing is you're able to use these extremely old military maps and tactics, and you're able to cross-reference those with modern maps that Brenier has of the surrounding regions to plot a safe course to the Golden Spire, to where Mammon currently is. With a 16 in Arcana, what you're able to glean is the removing of the Obsidian Spire was supposed to have upset some kind of balance. This was supposed to be like a great blow dealt in the wars of the Cataclysm. The idea being that if you take out one of these poles, the rest of the tent falls underneath it. And it kind of sounds like the other spires should be inert, that they should not have any more magic to them. They shouldn't be able to be used. But you were there in the Obsidian Spire, and you saw some of the stuff that was able to happen there.
Yeah, that thing was very much not inert.
But deeper understanding than that eludes you. Wendy, how are you spending this couple of days while Raazu and Adrex are reading books?
Wendy will probably spend it having books read to her, because she doesn't often get the chance.
And what about Red?
Let's no, we're just gonna take the opportunity to actually just get some fresh air.
Okay.
Red will actually probably go out and is there like any good hunting around here? It's not usually something Red spends a lot of time doing. It's usually more Wendy and Adrix's thing, but
there are woods in the region. Any hunting that Brenier or his people would do is just done for sport.
okay.
More than anything. But yeah, there are woodlands around, and if you make mention that you want to go on a hunt, some of the older children could show you the way.
Yeah, I think do that. Maybe collect some materials while I'm in the woods for poisons, that sort of thing.
You're not going to find
Just
any
get
of those
out
kind of
for a while.
materials in the woods. You'll have to remember that Brenier has created this entire realm. He would have to consciously put poisons there, and it's just not his nature.
Okay. It's the most bizarre artificial ecosystem Red has ever seen.
Make an insight check.
Red's offended by it.
No, not really offended, just strange. That's only a 30.
What's really strange about it is, speaking with Brenier, he seemed to want to protect the world as it is. Being that powerful in that position that can create anything that it wants in whatever image that it wants, Brenier has chosen to create a more sterile version of the world. He's chosen to ignore the natural cold of the region and the natural ruggedness of the terrain. And you get that same unsettling feeling as you did before when he took the staff.
Yeah, it's not the world as it is, it's the world as probably Brenier thinks it is, should be, more to the point. Like, it just doesn't... Are there other, like, aside from poisonous plants, other, like, things I notice in the ecosystem that seem like they should be here that aren't?
You don't see any naturally occurring, like, food chain phenomena. There's no sense of animals hunting other animals. There are animals...
like a ridiculous dungeon ecology.
Yeah, more or
outside.
less.
Okay.
There are animals there for you to hunt. Whatever you want to bring back, you can bring, whether it be a trail of hair or a deer or whatever you want. But yeah, it's perfect weather every day. The children that you're with, the older children, they would be not quite teenagers, maybe 12, 13 years old.
Mm-hmm.
This is something they do all the time. They go out to hunt to keep the stores in Wizard's Folly stocked. And even their actions, like it's like they're not taking this hunting seriously. It's a far cry from when Adrex went out on the hunt when you guys were in the Rat Warrens. And he was out for a week, and it was exhausting. And every day was a struggle, and at the end of it, he managed to bring back just a meager amount of meat.
Yep. And we're even farther north and higher up.
Talking at least about Lady Elaine, the massive success he had, but that's fine.
Yeah.
It's cool.
But I
We
mean,
got the
No,
Rat
I mean,
Warrens.
when Red gets back, he'll mention that to his companions. Like, I am nowhere near the hunter that Adrex or even Windy is, and I got 3 pretty decent deer on the first day. Like, I didn't even shoot the third one because it seemed completely excessive, but the children wanted to.
It just walked up and laid down in front of you.
Yeah, for all Breniar has been talking about, making the world as it is. That was Flick. This isn't particularly natural. There's also gaping holes in what I would consider to be a normal ecosystem. It's not really a forest. It's more like a child's drawing of a forest.
Right. Did you forget the child before? Brennier's a dangerous lunatic. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He thinks he does, and that's what makes him dangerous.
Also, did anyone, I guess I'll have said this before I left, did anyone else pick up on the fact that Breniar was terrified? Or, not terrified, but very shocked when we mentioned the snow riding.
No.
No.
What?
Yeah, he couldn't believe it. That would be the best way I think I could describe his reaction. You didn't pick up on that?
So you think that writing might not have been...
Well, I don't know what it was, and I don't know why, but he definitely heard something in that conversation he was not expecting or ready for. He wasn't afraid. I could tell that much, but
Why didn't you ask him?
At this,
refer to Windy's dangerous lunatic comment.
Thada is in the corner, drawing a picture of a forest. And she suddenly says, I think we should leave.
I'm kind of getting that same feeling, Thada.
And Wendy will nod and then stand up. All right.
I don't think Brennier's malicious or anything, but no, I can't disagree.
That's the thing, is I don't think he knows the difference between malicious and not.
Time out. You're all overreacting. So just
Are
take a
we?
deep breath. Yes. How far is Adrex into translating this schematic?
You've had a couple of days. It's going to take at least a couple of weeks to get just the surface level translations of it done. And then that's when you can actually start studying the schematic itself.
Okay.
Again, I bet Captain Ice has someone on his ship who can speak Gnomish.
I think that...
You're not. You guys aren't overreacting. Breniar has been nothing but nice to us since we've been here.
I don't
Exactly.
disagree. It's just,
And I mean,
there's something strange
he's-
about this place.
By all accounts, yes, you're right. But here's the problem: is that if that were his inclination, then maybe he would, by being so hospitable and so accommodating, he's drawing us into a sense of obligation to respect his desires.
I
Like
don't
you
think
said.
that's... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Like Raazu gestures to Windy and says, like the staff, for instance.
I don't necessarily think that's even the case. I just think that he's so powerful and so in belief that he knows what's good and right that he would do things that would affect us without even thinking about them. They wouldn't even make, like, if we brought them up to him, it wouldn't even make sense to him.
Maybe he's just surprised someone got into his domain and he wasn't able to detect it.
Maybe we could ask one of the children if they know anything about the snow riding. Is there any that would be knowledgeable about that sort of thing?
If you're going to ask the children, it's as good as asking Breniar.
That's true.
Yeah.
We could ask. I can't see the harm. The worst they could tell us is no.
Yeah. If they know of, we'll describe the process and see if they have ever seen that before. Most of these children have never seen snow, haven't they? This is stupid.
Who do you ask? Like, which of the children do you pull aside? Because remember, there are children here that are knowledgeable in all different kinds of subjects, but they do tend to specialize.
Right, that's exactly what I was thinking. If we could find the, probably the magic specialist?
Wendy would ask for the local politics specialist. No, I'm serious.
And no matter who you ask, who you pull aside, you kind of get some variation of the same answer. All of the kids seem to be in agreement that this sounds like some trick of the Ice Kings.
Adrex, is that true? Adrex, is that true?
I don't. That seems really beneath him.
Adrex, there's one thing you know about your sire, is if he knew that this staff existed, and he had a chance to seize it, he would stop at nothing to do so.
From everything you've said, Adrex, the Ice King's way of delivering that message would be with claws, fangs, and breath. Or
Probably.
hundreds of minions. I don't know if this is important enough for him
Minions first.
to personally do it.
He can't be bothered to do it himself. But he would for that staff. Which is why a trick thing written in snow is not his style.
Then the question remains: if it wasn't Breniar and it wasn't the Ice King, who sent that message to us?
And at that, Wendy just claps her hands together and says, "All right, so I think it's important that we stay on task."
Father
and
resumes drawing the
Are there any
forest.
prosthetic wings of cat size?
For fuck's sake.
What are we hoping to get by staying here longer?
Let me let Adrex finish the transcription of the schematic into common.
It's gonna take a while. We got weeks. I mean,
Are we under a particular timeline to deal with Malman?
What would converting that into common get us?
We don't have to
A
find someone
pile
else
of
to do it
work.
later, because it's not like we're going to build the ship between now and then.
The
Yeah.
chance of finding a gnomish translator in the world that you guys come from is slim to none. Gnomish is
You
not a
wanna go
widely
up?
spoken language.
There are no gnomes that flee up here? I guess we never really did see too many
No, there
dwarves or
were-
anything.
You didn't see any gnomes in the Kovnos.
Yeah, a lot
Were
of
there, any,
humans.
were there any gnomes in that city in the south? Brad?
I remember specifically humans, dwarves, I think the elves. I think there were maybe half-elves? Is that even possible, Adrex? I wouldn't have guessed it until now, but...
Adrian's
I
is
don't
like, I hope so.
No, I mean, that makes sense. We met that half-dragon. Why wouldn't there be half-elves?
A southling town of that size, you imagine you could find a gnomish translator
Okay.
fairly easy.
yeah, but then we gotta deal with the South.
Well, we gotta deal with the South anyway to sell off all the deeds that, Raazu has.
It's true.
Here's my perspective on this.
Is there any
Adrian.
magic that can translate things?
I don't know. Actually, that's kind of... Wendy might know the answer to this, because that would have been what she was reading books on, because the specific thing that she's interested in is learning if there's some kind of magical way that can allow her to read books on her own again. So this probably would have come up.
I mean, Braille won't be invented for another 300 years.
Audible, the app, the magic app?
You can read any book but House of Leaves. So you're asking, is there like a magic spell that will impart knowledge from a book without having to read it?
Right.
It's possible. Wendy's not trained in Arcana. This would be something that she would have to work with Birdie on,
hmm
or Birdie and Adrex. If Adrex isn't too busy dreaming about crossbows.
And Wendy will relate that's as far as she got with the kids, is that this definitely probably exists, but it's nothing that she can do on her own.
Remind me if we can get runes from Great Glimmer?
The only one you specifically asked him for, Birdie had asked to repair the Raise Dead spellstone that you have,
Right.
and he said that this is a thing that he would not do. He explained it because he didn't to use any amount of what he called divinity would diminish himself, and he was not going to do that. He would have
We
to
already
put
have
some
the
of
rune
himself
for
in
raised
the
as
stone.
just a broken stone. Could we see if he's willing to give us runes for lesser magics, in particular if there's anything that either dictates or translates?
I have a feeling he's not going to give us any runes.
You'd have to ask him.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can always ask.
I mean, we had the opportunities to pull runes out of that staff, apparently, and we didn't, so...
Which
Which
Not
could
for
be,
nothing,
go back
but-
to Wendy's point of, now that we've given you the staff, we're going to need something else to keep the balance.
Well, that's why he was providing the translators and everything. Not for nothing. 10 minutes ago, we were all panicked and were saying we should relieve Wizard's Folly. Now we're going back to asking Breniar for runes.
No,
in
we're
order
not.
to leave Wizard's Folly.
Wendy at that will say, I just want to make my perspective clear on this. I think that we don't know the dangers of staying here, and so if we are going to stay, we should have a clear understanding of why we are.
I can.
We
get
should
behind
make as much use of this place as we can, as fast as we can, so that we don't overstay our welcome, let's say.
Yeah.
I can get behind that. That makes sense.
Okay, so what's the decision?
I mean, I think we should ask him what runes he would be willing to share with us. We have some effects particularly in mind that we could have access to. But if he could even just give us the, not any sort of actual magic, just the knowledge to build magic. Is that how it works, Adrex?
Yeah.
I'm still not clear.
You put the different parts together, and the effect you want comes out. That's my understanding.
Here's my concern. This is something that I've kind of been that's kind of been simmering in the back of my mind since we had our last conversation with Breniar, and I feel like all this rune stuff, from when we first, before the five of us first awoke to magic. So something,
Sure.
It's been building to something,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that with how much we've grown in power and knowledge since then, that we're being groomed for something,
Sure.
and I'm concerned as to what that might be.
Sky piracy from the look of this schematic.
The way I see it, Raazu, is we were told there's this big war, and there's a bunch of different sides, and we're all on different sides now. And it's my belief that all those different sides decided to give us power, but it's our choice what we use it for. If we decide we're not on different sides, who's going to make us not be?
My opinion on the entire matter is that whatever the malicious or, what's the word for something that's so completely arrogant that it doesn't understand its actions on mortal beings?
Cthulhu?
That
And
it's malicious.
if Wendy looks upstairs,
Right, exactly. That all the malicious or beyond comprehension beings or whatever, they can all go fuck off. We're going to make the world a better place.
Wendy snaps
And
a
if
finger.
we have to put a knife in a few of them to make that happen, well, so be it.
And you hear a gasp from one of the open doorways of the guest area. And one of the children is looking around the corner, she's holding a tray with some food on it. And she hears what you say.
Oh, I bet he removed all the swears from language, too.
And the tray clatters to her feet as she turns and darts away down the hallway.
Well,
Adrex just has a pained expression on his face.
I hope that was planned. I hope that was part of your master plan, Red.
Red kind of shrugs. I think Breniar should be as powerful as Breniar is. He should be pretty aware that we're our own actors, and we don't mean him any harm. So,
I assumed he was always listening.
Yeah.
Did you guys not?
No, I did. I just didn't think it would be that dramatic.
No.
yeah, that's actually the strangest part.
What's next?
What is your suspicions regarding Breniar exactly? I want to get
It's,
at the party in general.
Oh,
I think Wendy's got their. I mean, I pretty much. I'm on the same page as Wendy. He just doesn't. His comprehension of the world at a certain level is lacking because he is so powerful. And I don't think again, I don't see any malicious intent, but he could do something unintentionally harmful.
Adrex.
it's not as cynical as Red, but Wendy did bring up the point that we could be in danger, and we have no idea what the scope of that danger is, and we need to figure out what that danger is. And I think that's totally reasonable.
Something that's been true from the very beginning of living north of the wall has been everyone looks out for their own. And from what I've seen, even this far north, that doesn't change.
Then there's a voice from outside in the central area, which is usually filled up with children playing and doing chores and sparring in the yard. And it's Breniar's voice calling you out. Each of you by name. And he says, I hear tell there's been some talk of a knife. We should discuss this openly.
Calm down.
Sure. Red walks out.
Yeah, Wendy will walk
Raazu
out.
walks out.
And he's standing in the center of the courtyard, with many of the children kind of haphazardly strewn around. Most of them tucked into the various corners and entrances of the places. Some of them lined up along the bridges above you. Otherwise, you're alone in the courtyard. Oh, you know what I need to do, actually, is... Yeah, you guys have a 9-year-old orc with you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Allegedly, for the time being.
Red, you get that same unsettling feeling right away because Breniar gave this big speech about taking this incredibly powerful staff that no mortal should be allowed to wield and secreting it away in his stores. He's holding the staff openly in the center of this courtyard when he calls you down. He tells you he doesn't look angry. He doesn't look upset. He looks disappointed, maybe. And maybe a little surprised. He said that he had, when all of you emerge, Thada is right behind Raazu. And without even looking Raazu, you know that her hand is curling around her stick.
Yeah.
I don't want to see that.
Raazu's kind of in the same boat right now. She kind of has a feeling of that a throwdown is about to occur.
Breniar tells you all. He says, I did not think you capable of treachery, so I choose to believe that I misheard. Or perhaps my young servant misunderstood your discussion.
I think so. I was using you as an example of a creature of your power, like Mammon. From my understanding, you mean no harm to the world, and I do not currently need to put a knife in your back. But if you were, I would. That's the way things work. And I currently have no intention of attacking you, Breniar. I'll hold my hands out.
He looks almost pleased, as though he's taking pleasure in just the insinuation that you could attack him.
A lot of people have thought that.
And he smiles broadly, and he says, A creature like me. Like Mammon.
Creature of the power of yours, yes.
This is as you see me. It's a being not in control of his power.
No, a being with power that I can't fully comprehend is more what I was going for.
What are the rest of you doing as this exchange is happening?
So far, Red has been saying what Wendy would have been saying, so
Yeah.
she's happy to let him continue.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adrex looks sad, but
Yeah, Raazu looks very pensive at this. Like, she didn't want things to turn out this way, but apparently we're talking about a scrap, and that's not kind of where she wants it to go, but she sees that as a very possible end result.
And Red will take a step forward and said, Breniar, for what it's worth, and this is a strange thing for my people, I think you would understand, but I consider you something of a friend. You know, I obviously don't have any strong, warm, fuzzy emotions or however that works towards you, but I think we've had a mutually fulfilling agreement for both of us, and not quite the same as I'm a friend with Adrex, but I don't see any need for anything untoward to happen between us. I think you've been a tremendous ally.
He says, Red, as you know, because we are friends, that I am very fond of stories. And you're right, I do look down on your kind, because I am above you. I am a power that you cannot comprehend.
Fully comprehend.
And I would like to hear the story of where you would put this knife, if you had to, if I was like Mammon. And the expression on his face changes so dramatically that everybody notices it. It's all of the just jovial sense of Breniar is completely extinguished. And his mouth is just a thin line, and his eyes narrow. And you see cruelty there for the first time. How would you do it, Red, if you had to do it? If I had to be put down?
Usually my first instinct is between these two ribs. He'll kind of point on his stomach. That usually manages to hit the heart, which is the fastest way to stop someone. That's usually also one of the most well-armored.
He holds up his hand, and he says, I grow weary of this story. Shall I tell you one? It's a story of 5 brave adventurers from the Southlands who found an ancient magical artifact beyond their comprehension. And he starts describing a room that you all remember. That if I were a better DM, I would have already had this pulled up on Imgur, but... Ermagerd!
Is this the,
Oh god, no, I pushed the wrong button and I'm just looking at custom villainous cards. Alright, I have to stop that. No, he describes the room inside the Obsidian Spire with the 5 dragon statues, one of which Adrex slipped inside of. Except he doesn't describe the chromatic dragons. He describes a room where the dragons are bronze.
Oh,
copper,
shit.
Silver.
Oh, shit.
And gold.
And Raazu, that look on her face is like, oh no.
I've missed something. Keep going.
This is bad. This is very bad.
And he claps the staff onto the ground. And as he does, storm clouds begin to coalesce overhead. And then Breniar suddenly lets go of it. And the staff clatters to the ground. Rain starts to fall. And he falls forward to his knees and on his hands, as though in great pain. And his golden cloak falls around him. And he's heaving with ragged breaths.
Hello, Mammon, Raazu says.
And he lifts his head, and Red now, he does look terrified and very surprised. And his eyes fall on Adrex, and he sees incredible this sadness and betrayal wash over his face. That's my son's bow. And he lifts himself up to his feet, and you can tell he's having difficulty getting control of his own muscles. And he starts to take a step towards you, Adrex.
Red is already grabbing the nearest child and trying to get all of them out of the courtyard.
There are no children in the courtyard. Well,
okay.
They're kind of in the entrances, watching from a distance.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood.
So that would be Thada, I guess.
Yeah, Red will yell to the children, get out of the... Get to cover.
Red, looking up,
Uh-huh.
you looking at the children, because there were some along this bridge, and you see them falling, lifeless, from the bridge. Just collapsing to the ground. And looking all around, all of the spark of life inside of these children goes out. And their limp bodies just hit the ground, ragdolling.
Adrex pulls out the bow and the gray arrow and points it at Reniar.
And he stops. And he puts his hand over his heart. He says, I don't know what treachery has befallen the world that my son's bow would come into the hands of a vagrant. But I would ask you, sir, if you are a man of honor, to lay it down.
Do you have any ideas, Wendy?
Hey, Bernier, what's the last thing you remember?
What is Adrex's reaction here?
Adrex just takes a step back, but he keeps the bow trained on, but the arrow trained on Reniar. He is conflicted and sad, but he knows what's going on.
And you see this recognition wave over him. And he closes his eyes. And he begins speaking more to himself, just under his breath, speaking in Draconic, saying something like, I understand. Then his eyes flash open, and they're burning with white light. And he yells at you. He says, go! I'll hold him off as long as I can, but go and be free of this place. And as he says that, his body begins undergoing a transformation.
Adrex, do it now.
Are you
Cunning action dash to grab the staff?
Yeah, no.
Well,
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 grabbing this.
nobody do anything yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Immediate 2-second question. Are we fleeing or are we rolling initiative? If you're going to loose an arrow or grab the staff, we're rolling initiative.
Red's gonna grab the staff as he runs.
All right, let's
Yeah.
roll initiative.
While he's convulsing.
Yeah, I guess
If everyone else wants to run or shoot, that's up to them, but that's Red's first inclination.
No, that you're gonna meet Wendy on the way there. So
So the two of you are going
Oh.
to run for the staff and like conk heads.
yeah.
We don't have the actual initiative peoples.
Oh, okay. I can fix that. Hold on.
I got an 11, so if you beat that, you grab the staff.
And then we're out.
Load up the default map here. All right. Let's go ahead and load everybody back in.
Mm-hmm.
I did it. I did it good. I did it good, guys.
You did it good.
I did it good for my initiative.
I don't remember what I rolled.
I do. We out.
I think it was like
Raazu, you are 100% certain that if this comes down to a fight, Thada is going to run forward with her stick and start beating on this dragon. So that's what he's turning into. All right. So
Unfortunately, Thada's got me beat on initiative, probably. Yep.
When we come back from break, we'll see how long the party survives against an ancient gold dragon. So let's go ahead and get your coffee, get your bagel. We'll reconvene in 15 minutes. That's going to be about 4:30.